The Silent Galaxy. The galaxy was calm, but the calm was false. For many years, the alien races had lived in the shadow of one story, a story about Earth, a story about humanity. The Council said humanity was gone. They said the humans destroyed themselves centuries ago. The archives told the same tale. A war so brutal, a silence so deep, and then nothing. The galaxy moved on. They built new alliances, new empires, and they laughed at the old stories of humans. They called humanity a myth, a legend, a ghost people. But some remembered. Old soldiers whispered about battles where human ships fought with fire and iron. Merchants told tales of trade agreements, broken by human stubbornness. Priests spoke warnings, saying humans were cursed by their own strength. Still, no one truly believed. No one thought they would ever return. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, 100 alien leaders sat in a circle of light. Their voices were sharp and filled with fear. Strange readings had appeared on the outer rim. Sensors showed distortions, gravity bending where no star or planet existed. It was not natural. It was not an accident. Something was moving in the void. Something vast. The silence in the chamber was heavy. The council leader, a tall insectoid being with silver eyes, hissed to the others, "We must know who commands this shadow." But no answer came. Only more fear. On the trade worlds, rumors spread faster than light. Miners said they saw a darkness blotting out stars. Pilots swore their instruments froze when the shadow passed. Entire colonies turned their skies upward. Children asked their parents why the night had grown thicker. Priests fell silent at their altars. Everyone felt the same thing. A presence, a weight pressing on their hearts far from the council worlds on the edge of known space. A listening station detected the truth. A single operator, alone in a cold chamber, saw the readings appear. His hands shook as he zoomed the image. At first it looked like an asteroid, dark, massive, moving with slow grace. But then lines appeared, sharp edges, towers, hangars, weapons, not rock, a ship, and not just any ship. It was human. The operator screamed for his commander, but by then it was too late. The warship had already turned. It was awake. The news raced across the galaxy. The council tried to stop the spread. They said the recordings were fake. They said no ship that size could exist. But the stars themselves betrayed the lie. Everyone could see the new shadows forming in the void. Not one, not two, but many. A fleet of black warships rising out of nothing. Their hulls drank the light. Their engines bent. Gravity itself, they moved without sound, without signal, without warning. In the council chamber, voices rose in panic. "They were destroyed," one shouted. "No, they hid." Another answered, "They should not have survived. They should not exist." The arguments filled the hall, but none could hide the fear in their voices. For above them, on every screen, one image repeated: a black warship, larger than cities, crowned with weapons no alien mind could understand. A warship built from the forbidden force, dark matter, the very substance the galaxy had sworn never to touch. Only humans would dare. Only humans would rise from the grave with such fire. And then, the shadow moved closer, one by one. The warships appeared near border systems, silent, waiting, watching. Planets fell into terror. Markets collapsed. Armies scrambled to prepare fleets. But what weapon could stand against such darkness? What courage could face that silence? In the streets of alien capitals, people whispered the word they feared: human. The word carried like thunder through the markets, through the temples, through the schools. Children asked, "What is a human?" The elders shook their heads and answered, "Something we were never meant to see again." The council leader stood before the assembly one last time that night. His silver eyes dimmed with dread. He raised his arms and declared, "The galaxy will not sleep tonight." And he was right, for as every world turned to its sky, they all saw the same thing: stars disappearing behind vast black shapes, the return of Earth's warships, and with them the truth. Humanity was not gone. Humanity had risen again, and the galaxy froze in terror. Whispers of the forgotten enemy. The galaxy could not hide its fear. News of the dark matter warships spread like fire through every star system. Even when the council tried to control it, the people still whispered, and those whispers grew into storms. Every tavern, every port, every trade station echoed with the same words, "The humans have returned." For centuries, alien historians had written humanity out of existence. They called Earth a broken world, a tomb drifting in silence. But the old soldiers knew better. The veterans who had fought the Terran fleets in forgotten wars spoke of battles that never ended, of humans who refused surrender, of ships that fought until the stars themselves burned. And now those memories returned like ghosts, and the young listened with wide eyes on the icy moon of Darol. Miners huddled in the dark halls. One old worker, scarred and blind in one eye, told the story. "I saw a human ship once," he whispered. "It was small, no bigger than a frigate, but it destroyed 3 cruisers before it fell." The crowd leaned closer, shivering. "They fought with a fire we never understood, and now they are back." Merchants, too, remembered. Some spoke of trade deals with humans long ago. They recalled the strange way humans bargained, not with fear, not with weakness, but with a sharpness that made even the richest trader sweat. "They never forgot an insult," one merchant said. "They carried grudges like weapons." And those words spread into markets across the stars. Soon buyers and sellers looked over their shoulders, as if expecting humans to appear at their stalls. Priests stood before their altars and struggled for answers. Whole religions had been built on the idea that humanity was punished, that they had been wiped out as a warning to others. But now the dark warships challenged that faith. Some priests declared the humans were demons returned from exile. Others said they were gods, walking again among the stars. And so temples, filled with fear instead of prayer. Inside the council chamber, fear turned into arguments. The insectoid leader slammed his claws on the table. "We must unite before they strike," he hissed. But another, a scaled reptilian general, growled, "Parisan, no alliance will save us. We must attack before their fleet grows larger." The chamber filled with shouts. Some called for war, others begged for surrender. But all their voices were touched by panic. They could not agree, and the shadows in the void kept moving. In the shadows of those ships, spies risked everything. One stealth craft slipped through the darkness, trying to gather images. Inside, alien operatives gasped at what they saw. Massive towers of machinery that pulsed with unnatural light. Weapons that bent the very shape of space. Engines that devoured energy without end. And everywhere, human. Soldiers moved with calm precision, faces cold, armor black as the void. No fear, no doubt, only silence. The spies fled. But only one survived long enough to send a single message. They are not the same as before. They are worse. Across the galaxy, children played in the streets and repeated the word, "Human," they said, without understanding. But the parents pulled them close and warned them never to say it too loud, for the name alone was dangerous. The very sound carried weight. It was the weight of history, the weight of an enemy that refused to die. And then came the first message. The warships, silent for days, finally broke the quiet, across every frequency, across every channel. One voice spoke. It was not loud, but it carried like thunder. It was human. "You thought us forgotten," the voice said. "You thought us broken. But humanity does not vanish. Humanity waits. Now we rise." The voice ended, and silence returned. But that silence was heavier than war. Worlds erupted in chaos. Markets crashed. Ships fled. Armies scrambled. But none could deny it now. The humans were not only alive, they were ready. They had returned with weapons the galaxy had sworn never to build. Dark matter itself answered to their command. And so the whispers grew darker, from soldiers to merchants to priests to children. Every corner of the galaxy spoke the same fear. The forgotten enemy had returned, and no one knew who would survive the shadow that followed. The message that shook the stars for days. The warships hung in silence, black giants against the canvas of the stars. Worlds trembled, waiting for the strike that never came. Every signal array, every listening post was fixed on those shadows. The galaxy held its breath then, At last the humans spoke. It began as a faint vibration, a whisper that cut across frequencies reserved for trade, war, and prayer. At first the alien engineers thought it was a malfunction, but the sound grew louder. Not noise, not static, but words. Clear, sharp, terrifying. The voice of a human echoed across the stars. "We warned you once," it said. The words carried no anger, only cold weight. "You forgot us, but we did not forget you. You erased our name, but now you will remember." The council chamber fell into chaos. Leaders rose from their seats, their voices colliding in fear. "How can they reach every channel?" one cried. "They are inside our networks." Another shouted. Panic burned through the chamber, for never before had any fleet spoken to the entire galaxy at once. Not even the oldest empires held such power. Across the outer colonies, the voice echoed through markets and homes. Children froze, clutching their parents. Merchants dropped their ledgers. Soldiers tightened their grip on their weapons. The message was in every language at the same time, translated perfectly, understood by all. There was no hiding from it. The human voice continued, calm and cold. "We were silent because you forced us into silence. You drove us from your councils. You feared our fire. You feared our will. You thought us gone, but humanity does not vanish. Humanity waits, humanity remembers, humanity rises." Then the message ended. No demands, no threats, only silence once more. But that silence was worse than war. It pressed into the hearts of billions. It carried the weight of something greater than invasion. It carried inevitability. On the world of Dras, crowds gathered in the streets to hear the message replay. Some shouted that the humans would bring freedom. Others screamed that the humans would bring death. The crowd turned violent, tearing apart their own city in fear of what was coming. The council sent soldiers to control the riots, but soldiers too had heard the voice, and their hands shook when they raised their weapons. Meanwhile, fleets scrambled to prepare. Admirals studied the shadows in the void. They counted the shapes. Some said there were 50 ships. Some said hundreds. Others whispered of thousands. But the truth was simple. Even one was enough to end a world. In the council's secret chambers, arguments sharpened. The insectoid leader hissed, "They are taunting us, testing our fear." But the reptilian general roared, "No, they are declaring war." A third voice, a soft-spoken aquatic being, trembled, "No, not war. Something worse." "What is worse than war?" another shouted. The aquatic being lowered its head. "Domination through fear." As if to prove the words, the warships began to move, not toward fleets or stations, but toward the heart of the councils, space. Their paths traced slow arcs of black, engines bending gravity into silence. No signals, no broadcasts, only the shadow of inevitability. Pilots stationed on the borders watched their screens in horror. Some fled without orders. Others froze at their controls. For to see the human fleet was to feel the weight of extinction. It was not just ships, it was history itself rising again with black wings. Then came another transmission, shorter, sharper, colder. This time the words were only 3. "Remember our warning," and then nothing. The stars returned to silence, but the hearts of the galaxy did not. For the first time in centuries, the alien empires realized a truth they had buried. The humans had not been destroyed. They had not vanished. They had been waiting. And now they were ready. The message shook the stars, and it left only one question: what comes next? The test of fire. The galaxy could not breathe. The human warships had spoken, then fallen silent once more. Every world, every system waited for what would follow. But silence was not peace. Silence was a blade hanging in the dark. At last, one empire broke. The Dravari Dominion, proud and cruel, could not endure the shame. Their leaders laughed in their war halls, their voices sharp with arrogance. "They are only myths made flesh," they said. "They have tricks, yes, but tricks cannot win against steel and fire." And so the Dominion sent their fleet, 1,000 ships, glittering with weapons, engines burning bright. They marched into the void, hunting the human shadows. The council begged them to wait. But the Dominion answered with scorn, Fear is for the weak, their admiral declared. We will remind the galaxy who rules these stars. And with that, their fleet vanished into the black. On the edge of the void, sensors caught the meeting. The human warships were waiting, silent still like predators hidden in tall grass. The Dominion fleet charged forward, their guns blazing. Missiles cut through the dark, beams of plasma lit the sky. The stars shook with fire, but the human ships did not move. They absorbed the storm like stone in rain, and then they answered. The first strike was not light, not sound, but absence. A Dominion cruiser simply ceased to exist, no fire, no wreckage, only nothing. One moment there, the next gone. The fleet screamed in confusion, and then another vanished, and another. The human weapons did not fire beams. They tore space itself apart. The Dominion's 1,000 ships became 1,000 deaths. In seconds, hundreds were gone. Their screams filled the channels, but the human ships stayed silent, cold, unyielding, unstoppable. On the Council worlds, the battle was broadcast live. Billions watched as the proud Dominion was erased. No defense worked, no weapon mattered. Every shot fired at the humans bent away, every missile lost itself in distorted gravity, and still the black ships advanced, their dark matter cores pulsing with power. The Dominion admiral's voice was heard one last time. We cannot fight this. Then static. His flagship collapsed into nothing. The rest followed, until the proud fleet was dust, until silence claimed them all. When it was over, the galaxy was not relieved. It was frozen, for what they had seen was not a battle, it was an execution. And in that silence everyone understood the truth. If the strongest could fall so easily, then no one was safe. Markets shut down. Trade routes went empty. Entire planets declared curfews. Some prayed, some rioted, some fled. But there was nowhere to run. The shadows were everywhere. Every night sky showed them, the black ships blotting out suns. In the council chamber, the insectoid leader bowed his head. They did not return for war, he whispered. They returned for fear. The reptilian general slammed his fist against the table. They will enslave us all. But another, the aquatic delegate, shook its head slowly. No, not enslave, it murmured. Control, reports. Poured in from survivors. Fragments of signals captured in the chaos. Voices of Dominion soldiers begging. We shot, nothing hit. We fired, nothing worked. They see us, they know us, we are nothing to them. And then silence. Always silence. On border colonies, children refused to sleep. They looked up at the sky and asked their parents, "Will the humans come here?" And the parents had no answer, for the stars themselves gave none. In the farthest listening posts, technicians whispered their own fear. They did not use all their power. They only showed us a glimpse. If that was true, then what else could humanity do? What other weapons slept inside the dark ships? And what would wake them? The test was complete. The lesson was clear. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy had failed its first trial of fire. Now the stars themselves trembled, waiting for the next move. Fear. Across the stars, the Dominion fleet was gone. 1,000 ships erased in moments. The galaxy had seen it. Every world, every screen, every eye. And the fear spread faster than light. On the trade routes, merchants abandoned their cargo. Ships turned away from safe lanes and vanished into deep space. Markets collapsed. Currencies shattered. Entire economies drowned under the shadow of human return. The galaxy was no longer trading in goods. It was trading in fear. Refugees flooded the borders of neutral worlds. Families left their homes behind. Believing the humans would strike next, planets turned their skies into desperate fortresses. But no wall could stop the shadows. Every night, people looked up and saw them. Warships larger than cities hovering without sound. Silent, patient, unstoppable. And in the silence, old memories returned. Soldiers remembered how humanity fought long ago, how they burned worlds yet spared civilians, how they struck hard but always with purpose. The fear was not only of death, it was fear of judgment. For humans never forgot and they never forgave. On the desert world of Thalan, An elder told a crowd of children the truth. "We thought them gone," he said, voice trembling. "But humans are like fire, they burn low, they vanish to ash, but the wind makes them rise again." The children asked, "Will they burn us?" The elder closed his eyes. "Only if they choose to." Across the galaxy, priests argued in their temples. Some called the humans demons cloaked in black iron. Others called them messengers of divine balance. The temples overflowed with worshippers, but they did not pray for salvation. They prayed for mercy. The council chambers drowned in despair. Leaders shouted across the table, "We must resist," one cried. "No, we must beg." Another screamed, "They will never accept surrender." A third hissed. The insectoid leader pressed his claws to his face. "We cannot fight them. We cannot trust them. What choice remains?" But no one answered because no choice remained, and still, the humans did not strike. Their warships lingered like shadows cast by unseen suns. They did not fire. They did not invade. They only watched. And that watching broke the galaxy more than war. Spies risked everything to board one of the dark ships. A single team slipped through the void, clinging to silence. What they found inside was worse than rumor. Engines that fed on collapsed stars, weapons that bent gravity into weapons of annihilation, machines that learned and rebuilt themselves faster than thought, and human soldiers, walking calmly through endless halls of black metal, their faces masked, their eyes cold, unmoved by fear, untouched by weakness. The spies sent one message before they were erased. They are not like us anymore, they have become something else. In the outer colonies, panic turned to madness. Whole cities emptied overnight. People fled into the wilderness, believing no walls could save them. On farming moons, crops rotted. As workers abandoned the fields, on industrial worlds, machines stood silent while workers stared at the skies. The galaxy had become a place of waiting. Waiting for fire, waiting for death, waiting for the humans. But still, no attack came. And that was the cruelest truth of all. Because the galaxy could not live in silence. They could not eat. They could not sleep. They could not breathe. Every thought, every dream, every fear returned to the shadows above. The black ships that hovered like gods in the council's darkest chambers. One thought took root. "They do not need to kill us," whispered the aquatic delegate. "They only need to remind us they can." And in that moment, the council understood the truth. The war was already over. The galaxy had already lost. From the richest core world to the poorest frontier, one word spread: human. It was no longer spoken with anger. It was spoken with dread, as if the sound itself would summon them. And in every corner of the galaxy, people whispered the same question: if this is only the beginning, what comes next? The Council's desperate gamble. The galaxy was crumbling under silence. Worlds no longer trusted their leaders. Armies no longer trusted their weapons. The people no longer trusted the stars themselves. And so the Council gathered one last time. This meeting would decide if the galaxy lived or died. The chamber was filled with shadows. Alien leaders sat in a circle, their voices sharp and broken. The insectoid leader hissed, "We cannot wait. Every day their shadows grow darker." The reptilian general slammed his claws on the table. "We must strike now before their fleet spreads farther." But the aquatic delegate shook his head. "We already struck," the Dominion tried. "And they were erased." Silence fell at that word. Erased. No one wanted to remember, but everyone saw it. One delegate, a trembling avian with glassy eyes, whispered, "What if we beg?" The chamber erupted in shouts. "No," screamed one voice. "They will never forgive us. They are not here for mercy," shouted another. "They are here for dominance." But still the avian delegate raised his voice again. "If we do not beg, then what else remains?" And no one answered. In secret halls beneath the chamber, plans were drawn. Desperation filled every word. Some whispered of hidden weapons, forbidden technologies locked away for centuries, sunbreakers, black holes in chains, weapons outlawed, because they could kill stars themselves. Perhaps such power could match the humans, but even those who suggested it trembled. For if the humans survived such a strike, what would they unleash in return? A desperate envoy was chosen. One ship, small and unarmed, was sent into the void, its hull painted white, its beacons glowing with peace. Inside, an alien ambassador whispered a prayer. As the ship approached the Black Fleet, silence pressed against it like a storm. The warships loomed, vast and merciless. The envoy sent a single message: "We come with no weapons, we come to beg for peace." The reply was not a beam of fire, not a strike of annihilation. It was a voice calm and human. "Peace was always in your hands," it said. "You chose war, you chose exile, you chose silence. Now you will live with fear." The envoy trembled. "What do you want?" he asked. The voice answered, colder than space. "We do not want. We remember." The transmission ended, and the envoy ship drifted back. The ambassador's feathers had turned white with fear. He spoke only one word when he returned to the chamber: hopeless. Still, the council argued, the reptilian general bared his fangs. "If they will not grant peace, then we must strike." The insectoid leader whispered, "Strike with what?" The chamber erupted again. Some demanded war, some demanded surrender. But the aquatic delegate sat in silence, staring at the floor. He finally spoke, his voice low. "They are not fighting us. They are controlling us. They do not need our surrender, they already have it." The words chilled the chamber, for it was true. No armies moved without fear, no people slept without dread. The humans had already conquered the stars, and they had done it without a single invasion. But still, desperation is louder than truth. The council authorized the forbidden weapons, deep in hidden vaults, machines older than memory stirred, weapons that bent suns and shattered moons. If humans would not grant peace, then the galaxy would gamble everything on fire. And in that gamble, there was only one chance: strike first, strike fast, or be erased. Across the stars, fleets gathered in secret. Commanders whispered final orders. Pilots swore oaths with trembling voices. But deep inside, they all knew. This was not courage. This was fear, wearing armor, and still the shadows lingered, watching, waiting, unshaken. The humans had not yet moved, they did not need to, for the galaxy was already tearing itself apart, and the Council's gamble was nothing but one more spark in a burning sky. The galaxy frozen in silence. The galaxy had gambled with fire, fleets were armed with forbidden weapons. The Council whispered of one last stand. But the humans never gave them the chance. The black warships spread out. One by one they appeared. Above the core worlds, their shadows fell across oceans, across deserts, across great cities. No fire, no invasion, no war, just silence, and silence was worse than death. On the world of Havar, people woke to find the sun blocked. A ship the size of a continent hung above them. Its black hull swallowed the light. Children cried, soldiers froze, leaders prayed. But the warship did nothing. It only stayed, watching. On the frozen moons of Talrin, miners came out of their shafts. They saw the black horizon of another warship above their skies. The ground shook as gravity bent, but no weapons fired. The humans did not need to strike, their presence was enough. Across the galaxy, worlds fell into silence. No one moved against the humans, no one dared. Markets collapsed into dust. Armies lowered their weapons, temples filled with broken prayers. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The Council gathered again, their voices were hollow now. The insectoid leader whispered, "They will not fight us, they will haunt us." The reptilian general growled, but even his strength was gone. "They are ghosts with flesh." The aquatic delegate raised his head slowly. "They do not need to kill us," he said. "They already own us." Reports came from the border. Wherever the human fleet arrived, resistance vanished. Not because of fire, not because of death, but because of fear. Entire planets surrendered without a shot. Not to human armies, but to human silence. On a forgotten outpost, an old historian opened his archives. He looked at the ancient stories of Earth, the battles, the wars, the legends. He read aloud to his students. "You see, they always fought differently," he said. "They fought with more than weapons. They fought with memory, with will, with fear." And the children listened, their eyes wide, for they knew the stories were no longer history. They were life. Spies tried to approach again, but none returned. Some said the humans captured them. Others said they vanished into the void, but the truth no longer mattered. For the galaxy already knew what waited inside those ships. Things too terrible to face, machines that bent stars, soldiers without weakness, weapons without limit. The humans had become myth-made flesh, and myths cannot be killed. Every night across 1,000 skies, families gathered to stare upward. They did not see stars anymore. They saw shadows, and those shadows never moved. They simply remained, an eternal reminder. On one distant world, a child asked her mother, "Will they speak again?" The mother's voice broke. "No, child," she whispered. "They do not need to." The galaxy froze. Billions lived each day in dread. Every whisper, every rumor carried the same fear. What if the humans strike tomorrow? What if they choose to end us? And yet the humans did not strike. They did not need to. The final message came not as words, but as silence across every channel. One by one, alien signals were cut, and in their place only the human presence remained. No threat, no promise, only silence. And that silence weighed heavier than war. From that day forward, the galaxy lived beneath shadows. The Council no longer ruled. The empires no longer commanded. Only fear commanded. Only humanity commanded. And so the tale was written in the stars. The day Earth's dark matter warships rose, and the entire galaxy froze in terror.